Today, I'm reacting to Inside Out and providing a ton of educational, psychological moments that can be made so much more concrete and easier with a movie such as this. Let's dive in. One of the reasons I love this movie, and it's a great tool for therapy and discussions, is because within the first 2 minutes, they're already tackling the concept of secure attachment.
And there she was. Riley.
Oh, look at you. Aren't you a little bundle of joy?
You see the baby being able to feel loved and accepted by the parents. The movie's concept that these little moments are stacking up and creating this sense of lots of little connected memories. Yes, that does lead to secure attachment. What is secure attachment? It's the idea that we've experienced enough safety and security and can expect people to be there for us from our caregivers, that we can expect that same result to happen outside in other relationships. It means we can trust. It means we can build bonds of give and take, and we don't have to be guarded. So when you take an experience where a child experiences hundreds and thousands of micro experiences with their caregiver that make them think that I matter, I'm valued, I'm loved, my parents care about me, then that kid doesn't have to worry and wonder, is love gonna be there tomorrow? Is there something I have to do to earn love? They can just rely on that love bond or attachment that is securely established. It's great to think our experiences as these little moments that affect us. Now, so many times in the therapeutic room, we're exploring memories that have affected us in a way that we did not want to happen. They have changed how we see ourselves, others, and the world, and a negative filter has been established. Whether we're talking about positive or negative experiences, we have to have this balance and recognize I've worked with people that all they want to do is focus on the positive and completely ignore sadness, pain, and everything else in their life. This movie is a great example of when we do that, it stifles us, it shuts us down, and actually prevents us from feeling connected and the joy that we want to have. On the flip side, clients, no matter how difficult their lives, have always had little experiences where someone has cared, something has gone well. But the problem is, if the filter becomes so loud, we tend to push those away and ignore them. And then we're missing out on the potential healing that can happen when we realize, okay, everything isn't all bad. It's not all good. It's a combination of the two experiences.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Riley, if you don't eat your dinner, you're not going to get any dessert.
Wait, did he just say we couldn't have dessert?
That's anger. He cares very deeply about things being fair.
So that's how you want to play it, old man? No dessert? Oh, sure. We'll eat our dinner right after you eat this.
Riley, here comes an airplane.
Oh, airplane. We got an airplane, everybody.
So here is an example of state changing. Emotional states change frequently and regularly. The problem is, in this example, so if we stayed in anger and didn't adjust to the new stimulus, we're gonna miss out on so many different things, and we're gonna create negative feedback loops. This happens all the time in relationships. This happens to me and my wife. Sometimes I'm frustrated about something, I misinterpreted something, and I'm still just listening to anger instead of hearing and seeing her face that she's saying, man, I'm for you. Like, maybe you misunderstood something I said. Like, let's get to the bottom of this. If I stay in anger, we're not going to have a productive conversation. But if I'm open to, oh my gosh, wait a second. Okay, I'm noticing anger, but then you're also saying something different now. Being able to pivot and being emotionally flexible instead of digging our heels in and saying, well, I'm angry, and let's just stay there.
We're good. It's all great.
Anyway, these are Riley's memories, and they're mostly happy, you'll notice, not to brag.
But the really important ones are over here. I don't want to get too technical, but these are called core memories. Each one.
In this segment, we're seeing the concept of core memories. Now, I would assume that Pixar is actually linking over to the idea of core beliefs, but since this is primarily a movie targeted towards kids, although adults can benefit a lot from it, the idea of core beliefs may be a little too abstract for kids to get. Now, what is a core belief and core memories, and why do they matter? Well, you see, if we experience things that are significant enough, they really do change our filtering, how we see others, ourselves, and the world. If I experience betrayal, especially at a young age, I'm going to believe that people just aren't trustworthy. If I experience divorce at a young age, or probably any time in the developmental period, I'm probably going to struggle to believe that relationship means forever or that marriage means forever. I'm going to doubt because my experiences have told me, don't trust this, don't let your guard down. On the flip side, and I know this is being a bit general, but let's say someone really had no trouble at all making friends. They just fit in. They didn't have any difficulty with social cues or anything like that. And they just believe, man, life's actually pretty easy. It's easy to make friends. They're going to have such a hard time understanding someone who has depression or sadness. In their worldview, well, it's not that hard. Just be yourself. But what if person B, in being themselves, doesn't feel that same ease of connection? So filters really radically change the way that we see things, and those are based on either core experiences, or I'd say core beliefs. One more example, take two people. The first person they ask out, person A, it goes well, they have a relationship, it's enjoyable, whatever. Person B, they ask someone else, and it is an embarrassing experience. That is going to affect, especially at a young age around puberty, it's going to affect how they view relationships and how easy it is, how lovable, how acceptable they are. It's going to affect their confidence. Now, caveat here, this, as with any core belief, doesn't have to be permanent. These are things that, unless we are aware of them, are in the background secretly affecting the way we see ourselves, others, in the world. But if we are not aware, that's how it stays. That is why therapy and self-reflection is so important. So we realize, 1, what are my core beliefs? And 2, how do they affect me? 3, does there need to be some tweaking? Are they serving me? Are they even true? No matter how true they feel, are they actually true?
And each core memory powers a different aspect of Riley's personality. Like Hockey Island. Goofball Island is my personal favorite.
I love Pixar's conceptualization that these ideas of core memories, core beliefs, builds up into traits of your personality. Take Riley as an example. In this instance, she has experienced clearly in the film a lot of connectedness with her family. And so her personality is being shaped to think family is really important. Now take someone on the other extreme of that who hasn't had a lot of connection with their family. They didn't feel like they mattered. Family probably isn't going to mean much to them at all. They're going to learn throughout life, I need to lean on family of choice instead of family of bloodline. Another potential example, let's say we have this curious kid and he's asking all tons of questions. And example A, his parents are stifling that. They're like, oh my gosh, stop asking questions. And now, caveat, this isn't a one-off, like you get frustrated or discouraged. These are patterns over time. There's no perfect parenting out there, period. But let's say the pattern is that when the kid asks questions and tries to understand, their parents feel annoyed or stop asking questions or taking it too much time. That shapes their natural inclination to be curious. Is curiosity is bad. It's just going to make you feel like crap. But on the other hand, a parent, or let's say parents and teachers and friends that really encourage that curiosity and are like, whoa, wow, I love how you see the world and how the questions you ask. That is going to shape that kiddo to embrace their naturally wired inclination for curiosity.
Good night, kiddo.
Good night, Dad. And we're out. That's what I'm talking about. Woo! Another perfect day. Nice job, everybody. Let's get those memories down in the long term.
I love how deep this movie is, and just again, like the first 10 minutes, they're covering so many important concepts. So even in this shot, they're talking about memories being kind of processed for the rest of the day. It's the end of the day. The mind is going to make sense of what has happened. Now, this even ties into EMDR for those who are interested. I do other videos explaining that, but basically it's a trauma therapy. Basically, our brains at the end of the day are processing memories and determining Was that important? One, was it important or not? Okay, then what do I do? It's important. Okay, how did that affect me? Was that important in the sense of that it defined some really negative, bad thing happening and I need to change how I interact with other people? Is this filtering as a negative core belief? I'm unlovable, I suck, I'm unworthy? Or is the brain filtering these as positive core beliefs? Because I've experienced so much security within my family, so much love, so much predictability, that I am lovable, I'm worthy, I know that I can be okay. And even if things are difficult, I will manage. It's so important to see how these memories affect us and if they're serving us or if they're creating barriers in the way and need to be reprocessed or we need healing from them. This next scene, watch out for how does Riley's parents' emotions start affecting her. Let's check it out.
The moving van won't be here until Thursday.
You're kidding.
The van is
Contract.
lost.
Oh, yeah,
The worst day
the
ever.
van is lost.
It's just going
Everything
through.
lingers. You said it would be here yesterday.
I love this scene because it depicts just one event eliciting so many different emotions. So I bet you can imagine as you're in a counseling session and something is being discussed and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, there's a lot going on under the hood. This is a great artistic rendition of feeling like so many different voices and emotions are competing for your attention. And it's exhausting. Right, that's part of the reason counseling can be exhausting. If you're doing your work, if you're working hard at counseling, it should be tiring because it requires so much emotional presence and mental processing power. And in this scene, it honors that it is very complicated to sift through our emotions in a difficult experience. All of the emotions are competing for the spotlight. I mean, like, I think the scene is supposed to be chaotic to drive that point home.
What are we gonna do?
What is their problem?
I've got a great idea!
Did you even read the contract?
Anderson makes her move. She's closing in.
Hey. Oh, no, you're
She's
not.
lining up for the shot.
So on one hand, this is a cute scene where Riley jumps into a hockey moment trying to be playful, right? So in one sense, totally taking it with a grain of salt. It's cute. It's a good scene. And it would suck if we didn't realize that this kind of element does happen so often with children, that there's some sense of conflict, some difficulty between parents, and the kiddo takes on the responsibility to diffuse the situation. And that's where as parents, we have to be so aware of our own emotions and the emotions of our kids as it's happening so that we are not letting them be the emotional referee and taking on the responsibility to diffuse conflict. Let's see what happens as Riley starts remembering her positive memories because Joy is forcing it instead of letting some natural progression happen within her own internal state.
Just look behind you.
Nice one, Joy.
I like that time with the dinosaur. That was pretty funny.
Wait, what happened?
She did something to the memory.
Here's this memory that now is more complicated because Riley is moving. Parts of these memories have been changed. Like this trip represents her losing her friends. It can have both a combination of joy, fulfillment, and connection with her family, but also sadness because things are changing. One of the biggest problems I see in the counseling room, at least with people in their emotions and specifically avoiding sadness, is exactly like the entire thesis of this movie. That if I let myself feel sad, then it's going to ruin all my experiences. I'm just going to stay sad forever. And sure, you might be sad for a longer period of time if you've been avoiding sadness like your entire life, but sadness doesn't last forever. Sadness is very different than hopelessness and depression. And that's a conversation for another day, but most people are truly just avoiding sadness because it doesn't feel good to grieve. It doesn't feel good to allow ourselves to sit in the discomfort of missing something or longing for how something used to be. Now, the caveat here is sadness is so much more tolerable when we experience it in relationship. When I know I can bring my sadness and feel loved and supported, maybe get comfort and a hug, it's so much more tolerable than if I'm going to just experience sadness alone. And understandably, when some of us haven't experienced the connection factor of sadness, or let ourselves receive the connection factor of sadness, it can feel so intimidating. Now here we see Riley having sadness on her own, and it would be so fascinating to have seen them have the interplay with her being sad and what her parents would react to that beforehand. Because this is where some people start to learn to shove sadness away. They say, well, if a parent says, oh honey, don't be sad, or it's gonna be so much better, or don't worry, you're gonna make new friends. They just completely bulldoze and ignore the sadness and only focus on the new things at hand, instead of holding the balance of, you're sad, I'm so sorry, this sucks. Yeah, sure, I don't want you to think things aren't ever gonna get better, but let me attune, notice your emotions, and meet you there before I just provide any possible, I don't want to say even solutions or fixes, but there is a silver lining, there can be good that can come of this, but let's also just acknowledge the sadness first.
Where's Dad?
On the phone. This new venture is keeping him pretty busy.
I rest my case.
Your dad's a little stressed, about getting his new company up and running.
Now, for a few well-placed withering scowls.
I guess all I really want to say is thank you.
Huh?
Through all this confusion, you've stayed our happy girl.
I feel the need to disclaimer, I didn't analyze the movie like this when I first watched it. I'm using it for educational purposes because I know it can be so much easier to learn when we have a hands-on experience. With that said, this whole conversation sucks between Riley and her mom. Her mom, with the right intentions, is trying to say, hey, Dad's trying this new job. We're trying to make things better. Can you just put on a smiley face? Because that's going to help us all. Again, her intentions probably aren't terrible, but the impact sucks because it's basically saying, don't feel your emotions. Don't feel sad. I'm not actually going to be able to comfort you if you bring those emotions to me, because sadness is a burden. I would love to hear from people. Is this the example that taught you to shut down from sadness? Or why is sadness so difficult to experience in your life? Let me know in the comments below. The twist I would apply here, one, it's okay to honor that maybe your child is just trying to have a good attitude. They're not stuffing their emotions. They're trying to make the best of the situation. And that's a whole complicated conversation to tell the difference. But for the sake of conversation, we're going to say, hey, mom's just honoring her daughter. The way to honor it even better is saying, hey, you seem like you are handling this really well. You seem like you are not affected and sad by this. If you are, please let me know. I want to process it with you. There's so many difficult things going on right now with a move and changing schools and friends. If you're truly okay, that's awesome. I can celebrate that with you. But if you're struggling, please let me know. Going on a personal vendetta right now. I feel like that line, okay, mom's saying, Dad just needs us to smile. Let's just keep smiling. That was part of my family of origins. Dad is the most important figure in the house. Let's all rearrange all the emotions so that he's okay. The problem with this is basically saying you shouldn't have your own emotions. You should stuff them. And love means we all just fake a positive experience when we're not actually feeling it. And you may or may not know this, but that's going to almost always lead to bitterness, frustration, anger at the person that's basically indirectly or directly controlling your emotions. That is not sustainable. It leads to more conflict. I'm going to pick on this scene for a second because for whatever reason, this scene reminds me of delusional positivity. Clearly things haven't been going well so far and Joy just kicks right into it. First wakes everybody up, which would just piss them off. And it's let's go. This is going to be awesome. And that is part of the problem, right? So delusional positivity, there's kind of this huge push off and on, depending what circles you're in culture, that things should just be positive. Don't say anything negative. Don't speak anything negative. That is toxic. It does not help you. I've worked with clients who did not want to talk about anything negative in their life, and yet they were saying, hey, there's some really damaging patterns that are happening. I need to change them. But they refused to understand what was actually going on underneath. And so the sad reality is they kept repeating those same patterns that they hated and just have to keep increasing the volume of positivity to make everything offset that, oh, my choices keep leading to things I don't want to happen. And that it requires me to actually do a deep look into my heart, see what isn't going okay, and letting those emotions out instead of just bulldozing them with toxic positivity. I love this scene. I mean, man, the only thing that I wish they had done is maybe drew the circle and shoved her in a closet and just locked it. Because that is so many people's experience with sadness is, oh yeah, sure, sadness can exist, but it has to be completely contained. I can't listen to it. I don't want to experience it at all. I want to control my sadness, which just leads to stuffing and suppression, and it usually comes out sideways. Honestly, there's some people that are depressed because they have not dealt with sadness, and the backpack they're carrying is so heavy that their body's like safety defense mechanism is to numb. Your body's like, I can't handle this anymore. The weight of sadness that we're ignoring is too much, and so we just have to go offline. And so some people, not everybody, but some people are depressed because they haven't even let themselves feel sadness or grief, and that weight has become too much. So this is a good example of misattunement. Riley is clearly sad. She's checked out. She's struggling. But listen to what her mom says instead of just noticing her emotions and checking in with her daughter.
I found a junior hockey league right here in San Francisco, and get this, tryouts are tomorrow after school. What luck, right? Be back out on the ice?
Oh, yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Did you guys pick up on that?
Sure did.
Something's wrong.
Should we ask her?
Let's probe, but keep it subtle so she doesn't notice.
So, how was the first day of school?
She's probing us.
It was fine, I guess. I don't know.
Something is definitely going on.
She's never acted like this before. What should we do? We're gonna find out what's happening, but we'll need support. Signal the husband.
Ahem.
Riley is clearly sad. She's checked out. She's struggling. And she doesn't need someone to just like say, hey, let's go get ice cream, or hey, let's just start joining a new hockey league. She needs someone to say, Riley, like, you don't look like you're acting like yourself. And I'm not pressuring you to act a certain way. What I really mean is you look sad. Like, what's going on in your inner world? I would love to hear and support you and listen to you with what's going on right now. Now, depending on a kid's age, they might not even find the language to describe that. And that is where it's an important role for the parent to help guess and name the child's experience and see what they actually grab onto. In this instance, an attuned parent would say something along the lines of, Riley, I bet you're sad. This house looks like crap. None of us expected this house to look this bad. You've moved away from your friends. You're about to start a new school. I'm sure you're feeling a little just out of place and missing our old life. Is any of that right for you? Tell me what your experience is. That way, a parent, one should create space for letting the kid tell them what they're actually experiencing. But depending on the age, children need a parent to help them make sense of their emotional experience. And even validate and kind of role model that it's okay to have those emotions and to talk about them. Again, not trying to be negative. I also want to honor mom clearly cares and she's trying. So there's this definite balance between so intention does matter, you care, and you're trying to help, but also the unintentional impact matters too. And we have to hold that balance of just holding on to our intentions all the time isn't good enough. Sometimes we have to tweak what we say and what we don't say. No matter how good our intentions are, if they are always missing the mark that we're trying to have them affect, that's on us to change how we're saying and to see how the other person needs it to be worded. Great example here. So disgust is taking over. Really, it's like sarcasm or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that sounds fantastic.
And this is an opportunity for conversation, right? So many of us, when we're feeling something vulnerable, if we don't feel that there's enough safety and space to talk about it, which could be because of the dynamics, but it also could be our own insecurity. So we got to figure out which one that is. Let's say it's Riley's insecurity right now. In this conversation, because she's not being vulnerable, she's really not giving her mom or anyone any opportunity to care about her. Now I'm zooming out right now, specifically jumping over to relationships, right? So in relationship, when we're just being sarcastic and pushing away, we're taking any opportunity for someone to care about us. That's where it's so important to risk being vulnerable and actually say how we're really feeling, like, I'm sad right now. Because sarcasm, like, there's no real productive way to, like, interact with sarcasm. It's basically just saying, go away, I don't want to talk to you.
What did she say?
What? Oh, sorry, sir. No one was listening.
Is it garbage night? We left the toilet seat up. What? What is it, woman? What?
He's making that stupid face again.
I could strangle him right now.
Man, I so relate to the husband's just confused, not understanding his wife. And the wife takes that as he doesn't care. He is judging me. And so that's what's so important to realize and start naming. Like, man, you probably don't mean it like this, but it looks like you're maybe judging me or confused, like assuming that you're wrong in your interpretation. Because in this instance, for the husband, he's like, I'm just confused. And I can't tell you how many times people will say that in a session, or I say that in my life, or my wife might say that. And if we don't just believe what the person is telling us, then we miss that opportunity to actually pivot again. And now we're just fighting over, well, you look like you were judging me. It's like, man, that does not feel good to be like, I'm literally just confused and not understanding. And then it's taken as judgment. Now, does that mean maybe my confusion face really is judging and I need to like see it? Maybe there is what we would call projection. As the wife is saying this, she is assuming that she knows what her husband is feeling and expressing in his face. And she is putting messages on his face that aren't even there. And so that's what's on one hand so like kind of frustratingly complicated about psychology, but this is where so much breakdown happens in relationships because we get one kind of intuition, gut feeling, well, this is what you're feeling, and we run with that instead of actually checking if our biases are correct. And then it leads to conflict.
Signal him again.
So, Riley, how was school?
Gotta be kidding me.
School was great, all right?
Riley, is everything okay?
Sir, she just rolled her eyes at us.
What is her deal? All right, make a show of force. I don't want to have to put the foot down.
No, not the foot.
Riley, I do not like this new attitude.
Oh, I'll show you attitude, okay?
No. Stay happy!
What is your problem? Just leave me alone.
Sir, reporting high levels of sass.
Take it to DEFCON 2.
You heard that, gentlemen? DEFCON 2.
Listen, young lady, I don't know where this disrespectful attitude came from.
You want a piece of this, Pops? Come and get it!
Yeah, well, just shut up!
Fire! That's it. Go to your room. Now.
Foot is down. The foot is down.
Good job, gentlemen. That could have been a disaster.
Well, that was a disaster.
This whole scene is like amazing. It's funny and sadly like a disaster. I feel like this often represents how communication goes, maybe within families. I'm not a family therapist, but at least between couples. No one's actually being direct. Signal the husband, clearing a throat. Instead of us all sitting down and saying, man, Riley, you look sad. Hey, husband, like I see that you might be, like, are you deep in thought? Do you need to finish a thought? Because I'm noticing something happening in the family. Can we all like pivot and understand what's happening right now? Like, man, I'm feeling sad, Riley, that like you looked sad. Jumping way ahead in the film now, we see Joy is looking over at a memory. I thought this was a great snapshot of what we would call third-person perspective. Let's assume that it's Riley instead of Joy that's reliving this memory. Now, what's so great about this example is the ability to see or remember a memory from a third-person perspective allows us to engage self-compassion, right? So if it's Riley looking at Riley and she's like, man, that little girl looks so sad. She's all by herself. She feels like she just lost the hockey game and she's feeling really crappy. Now, she's watching that from her own perspective. She could either be beating herself up, you stupid piece of crap, or she could be saying, oh my gosh, like I care about that little girl. I'm sad that that little girl feels so alone. And equally, as the memory progresses, third person, she could be like, wow, look at how people care for that little girl. She felt alone, and then people showed up and they championed her in the middle of her pain. Like her sadness let her get more connected. That's so important of a tool to practice that third-person perspective with our own lives and memories so that we can have self-compassion and see how others are interacting with that person. If we're so stuck in our head and like beating ourselves up, maybe we're missing how other people actually are showing up for ourselves.
Mom and Dad, the team, they came to help because of sadness.
Oh, I love that she finally feels her emotions. Oh, so good.
I know you don't want me to, but I miss home. I miss Minnesota. You need me to be happy, but I want my old friends and my hockey team. I want to go home. Please don't be mad.
Oh, man.
Oh, sweetie.
We're not mad. You know what? I miss Minnesota too.
Way to go, Dad.
I miss the woods where we took hikes.
And the backyard where you used to play.
Spring Lake, where you learned to skate. Come here.
Man, yes, parents. Pixar, you're amazing. Thank you, all you writers and everything. You create such interesting, meaningful content. We can't have all joy, we can't have all sadness. Life is such a mixture of the two. Oh, man. Oh my gosh, I love this part of the movie. It's so profound and powerful and true. The idea that now that Riley actually is willing to express her sadness, her parents, who are tuned enough, can actually appreciate that and comfort her. I love that they show the parents sharing their own experiences as well. Yeah, Riley, I get it. This is sad. There are things that we have missed and are providing emotional support and comfort. I get that the biggest threat, at least in my experience, is that why should I feel sadness? Because if people aren't going to show up, if people don't care, then it's just really painful. And I 100% want to validate that. That does suck. If we haven't experienced someone just being like, man, that sucks. I'm so sorry. Like, maybe I relate to that. I don't want to take over your space. I just know that you're not alone, and tell me more. It sucks to do sadness alone. But man, I hope this can, at a minimum, if you haven't experienced it, this can be the goal, that I get to share sadness with people and learn, maybe in therapy, like, what am I doing with not sharing sadness, anything that needs to be tweaked so that I can actually let people in and care about me. This is the ideal of how sadness is supposed to be experienced. And man, both between professionally and even sometimes personally, I haven't experienced nearly enough people that are comfortably able to experience sadness. And that does suck. It sucks so much that not enough people have done counseling or their work or are comfortable enough with sadness to just kind of shut up and just let you be sad and be kind and be empathetic and just give you space. Man, I wonder what the world would be like if we really let people just be sad instead of trying to smush it away and excuse it away or distract it away. Sadness is a pivotal, extremely necessary emotion. Like, in one sense, I wish it didn't exist, but there's nothing we're ever going to do in this world to get rid of sadness. Sadness is here to stay. And so we can't really change that we're going to have sadness, but we can change our relationship with it. And there can be that tension of grieving. Man, I wish people accepted sadness and were kind about like receiving it and comforting it. And it sucks that we don't always get that. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you learned a great deal from it. I'd love to hear your questions, thoughts, comments, anything to keep the conversation going below. I'd also love to hear, hey, are there other concepts, ideas, movies that would be fun to use as an educational experience to really help some of these concepts feel a little more concrete? Because I know psychology can feel abstract. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.